So, of course, my brain only becomes philosophically functional at the exact point I'm trying to go to bed. But nonetheless, I wanted to get this thought process out of my head before it completely blows up on me. So, a Facebook friend of mine had shared a post about 42nd Street, Grand Central. There was a banner hung called "Stop Killing Black People." Unfortunately, the jester in me at the time I had seen this decided to be a little hyperbolic and respond with, "Only black people? Everyone else is still fair game?" Of course, this was responded to with a few responses of, "Seriously? You living under a rock or just being a purposeful shithead?" Of course I was being purposeful. Shitposting. I thought it was entertaining, but also warrants an interesting question. Of course, the Facebook friend who shared this asked to stop shitpost on straight pride or all lives matter. The jester in me came back again and thought, "Are you saying to be discriminatory in shitposting?" I did put in parentheses that it was a serious question, and in a way it is. You think about it. If we are to remove the black people from shitposting, become untouchable, you could say that they're not allowed to be had fun with. But it got my brain churning. Because in a way, to not make fun of someone is almost discriminatory. Although you could absolutely argue that making fun of someone is discriminatory. But I suppose you have to ask what's more important, the interpretation or the intent, which becomes a rabbit hole nobody wants to go down. Although toilet thoughts on this, I had mistakenly thought it was a Black Lives Matter, and being that All Lives Matter was brought into this, it seemed to be of a Black Lives Matter issue. Then, of course, I connected two issues with one. If Black Lives Matter, when do they matter? And I don't mean situationally per se, because there's also the issue of pro-life right now. Pro-choice debate is being had. Do Black Lives matter in that context? Because in that case, you have to consider, what is life? If the child is to be black, is that not a black life? Do they not matter because they are not yet born? Expecting this to be horribly received. This is hyperbolic, but if real life has taught me anything, it is far stranger than fiction. Far stranger than any fiction that could ever be written. Magic of any genre can't come close to these strange situations you can find in real life. And I do find it a strange situation now that we are fighting to prove a point that these specific people matter. Just these people. Now, I do find it fair that they do matter. But I feel an intention is being lost in these ideologies. This Black Lives Matter, these Gay Lives Matter. It's almost as if common sense is not common. Because you would think anybody's life would matter, no matter their sexuality, their skin color. So yes, a gay black man's life would matter. Now, does it matter that more than a straight white man's? Well, we can contextualize this. We can people watch this even. Say the gay black man goes on to do something important and valuable, then yes, his life would matter quite a lot. And the straight white man goes and does nothing with himself. Is he not still valuable? If they were to just be dropped into the earth, no purpose to them whatsoever, perhaps not, but I suppose that could be said of anybody. At the same time, how do you value someone? As if saying the red Skittles are better than the purple, or the yellow M&Ms are better than the red. The yellow M&Ms are still an M&M, just as much as the red M&Ms are. They're both chocolate candies. They're just coloured differently on the outside. If you don't like M&Ms, unfortunately, then you're out of luck. Especially if you're allergic to chocolate, then I'm afraid that you're not going to like anyone. But interesting enough, I've met some people that don't. But are they discriminatory? Can they be called such if they discriminate equally? Or if they include everyone in their discrimination? The answer would be yes. But they are so discriminatory, it's not important. They cover a wide range of things. Isn't it interesting how we placed more emphasis on the expertise of one individual skill than generalists? You find individual things to be far more important than more encompassing ideals. I find both the pro-life and Black Lives Matters ideology to be troubling in a sense of how they can be interpreted. As I have demonstrated, Black Lives Matter, and only Black Lives Matter. It means that everyone else is fair game. Yes, this is hyperbolic and exaggerated, but to think like a child. One can only enter the kingdom of heaven as such. Think of an innocent child where you give them the slightest inclination of an idea and they can run with it for miles. That never end. At the same time, if you don't correct it properly, it will run away from you. I find the issue of pro-life, pro-choice to be in this exact situation. Do they relate specifically to each other? Yes, they do. Because we are constantly fighting for the value of life, are we not? At what point does life matter? At what point is it considered life? Evidently, whether or not you've been born, or even if you have been, your life may not have value. And depending on how you were born, may further impact your value still. But I obviously am not the person who is qualified to be the judge of this. And if I remember correctly, nobody is. But unfortunately, we'd have made ourselves so. As such, I will not contest with that. You see, I find the term Darwinism comes to mind as such that the fittest will survive. But alas, I think expediently of an ecosystem, the balance it holds within. And while the fittest may survive, the fit may be few. And if there are few deer to feed the wolves will quickly die off. As such, as the intelligence and values are killed off, there will be not much left to hold up or protect the idiocy. Think of it as a fire that burns so hot, it eats through its fuel before more can be added. The fire will die out, as it has gluttonously eaten its way through all it has to burn. I understand I'm digressing. I'll get back to my point in a second. My issue with the pro-choice and lives matter any live matter, is I really feel the core value is lost at this point. Seriously, it's not just morals or values or whatever. No, we've forgotten the base. We've built a house upon the sand. Seriously. Because birth control works 100% of the time, right? Oh, yeah. You know what absolutely works 100% of the time? Not. That goes for anything. Oh, I don't want to get sick. Don't want to get exposed to germs. You don't get sick. Prove me wrong. If you not something, it is likely to be not. Quite consistently. I'm intentionally leaving that open-ended because of all the ends that can fill it. For instance, let's just not kill anybody. Funny enough, I have an odd theory with not killing anyone, and that's nobody will die. Just a radical idea there. If people don't have intercourse, protected or not, it's quite possible that people simply will not have children. Now, there are ways around this, and I'm sure they can be brought up. But no matter how many ways you take to get around the mountain, you still have to get across the mountain. Unless you remove the mountain, of course. And I see this wonderful issue of people trying to remove the mountain. People trying to go around the mountain without dealing with the mountain in front of them. A thought process I had about this was damming a river without noticing that there's streams feeding the river. Much easier to dam up a stream, or even stick a pipe on it, stick it, feed it into a tank, use the water, instead of letting it all flow into the ocean and trying to dam it up at the mouth of the river. We have this lovely issue of, well, what do we do with these abortions, with these unborn children that are not wanted? Gosh, that's weird to think about. But I find the issue is not that the children aren't wanted. It's that consequences aren't thought about anymore. People forgot what the word is. You know, and it applies to so many things. You kill someone, there's consequences. You do wrong or evil, there are consequences. They may not be immediate, unfortunately. How many serial killers have we had, right? They can kill and kill and kill, or whatever they do illegally. They may not be instant consequences. That does not mean there will not be consequences. Think of every criminal that was eventually caught. There are consequences to actions. Some words have had consequences, but those were words that created action. Now, I feel that our consequences now are unfortunately due to the actions of so very few. And those very few forgot, or intentionally did not, instill a specific value that has been troubling us in all these discussions and all these issues. The whose life matters. Does it matter if they're not born yet? Could it even be considered life? If you value life, if you value life enough, if you know what life is, to know what true value it holds, not just whatever value, you know. Go to a health insurance or a life insurance company, you know, your life is worth $10,000 or whatever arbitrary number they place on it. You're worth 20 Scooby snacks. We cannot physically calculate the value of a life. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. Ethereally, it's possible, but physically, no. Not possible to value someone's life, because you will never know everything there is to know. That is a simple fact. Can you know a lot? You know a lot, for sure, but you will never know everything. As much as some people like to refute that claim. But if you were to hold life to its true value, you would have no reason to kill. You would have no reason to abort. Furthermore, you would have no reason to create life if you knew the value it held. If you knew the value of your own life, how could you throw it away so easily? If you knew the value of your own life, how could you squander it so fruitlessly? And if you could understand, comprehend, appreciate the value of your own life, I thoroughly expect that it's possible, even if you don't get it immediately. But if you think about it, you may then begin to value the lives of others. And if you understand thoroughly the true value of life beyond your own, you have no reason but to preserve it. I can't kill bugs anymore. And we have friggin' ants all over this house, and I can't bring myself to just squash them because they're ants and they're probably eating the house. But you know what? That ant is life. If I remember, if science is still held to any regard, there's a few pieces to what makes life life, and as far as I know, an ant is still a living creature. Rocks are simple. They're just a material, but when you put life, even the simplest form of a single cell, and you truly understand the miracle that is, it becomes hard to so easily destroy it. You could even tell me, you even present cancer in front of me, and I will still be fascinated by it endlessly. You know why? It's life. It's faulted life, sure, but show me a faulty character. Not a faulty character in the sense that the writing is bad, but a character with true faults. Show me a character with faults that is not well received. So many superheroes these days that have all these inherent flaws, these wonderful faults that can break them in any way possible. But a lot of these faulty characters are well received and well liked. And unfortunately, there's a fault. There's a fault in the subroutines. There's been a fault in our character for so long that we have lost the value of life. I don't care if it's the life of an ant. It is life. And if you have not yet come to the terms of how infinitely valuable that is, how intensely astonishing, just mind-blowing. Life should not exist, technically speaking. If you think about it, if you want to go off science answer of, the universe just exploded. Does life come from explosions? No, we do all kinds of explosions. Life never comes from an explosion. Life happened because, legitimately, the perfect storm happened. Somehow, things came together to create... Excuse me. Insert anything after that statement. Anything. Absolutely anything. Life-related. Any creature on this planet. Insert it after there. Impossible. Theoretically impossible. We can't do it on our own. We can't just create life. We always need some form of life to synthetically create life. So, if it's that so damn hard to make life, why are we so willing to just destroy it? Oh, you have to make life. You just no. No. It's not that easy. Unfortunately, because it has been portrayed as so easy. Think of ballpoint pens, right? One of the simplest and most common objects you can ever find. Ballpoint pens are very easy to make. In fact, they're so easy to make, they're made in very large quantities, and in such large quantities that their value is negligible, to the point that if you lose one, it's no big deal. You can chew on it. It's no big deal. You can snap it in half. It's no big deal, because that ballpoint pen has ultimately very little value. You can chew on it. It's no big deal. You can break it in so many ways. It is no big deal. You can outright destroy it. It's no big deal. You can ensure that it's never created in the first place. It's no big deal. Because unfortunately, the concept of the true value of it has been lost. Now, if you want to get specific, yes, Black Lives Matter. But I want you to present me with life that does not matter. And I will be promptly ready to express why I disagree with you. That no matter the life, no matter the shape, the form, no matter how many feet it has, no matter if it's blind, can see whatever senses it may be lacking, or have that others don't. If you want to tell me that life now has no value, I'll return the question to you. If life has no value, then why do you have yours?